identified through dental records. The skull was also examined by Dr. Dennis Dirkmatt, who is a forensic anthropologist, and that report is inconclusive at this time. However, I am deeming this investigation highly suspicious. And with that, I will turn it over to DA Greg Neubauer.
So just for the record, the spelling of the last name of the decedent is Theys. As Coroner Lees indicated, his office as well as law enforcement believes finds this death to be highly suspicious. Michael had been missing for some time, and we are currently, obviously, this has shifted from a missing persons case, which has been being investigated, with the lead entity on that being the Cambria County Detective Bureau. It has shifted into a suspicious death type of an investigation. A lot of entities have provided support. We had multiple cadaver canines from Pennsylvania State Police out a couple of weeks ago after the discovery of the skull to try to find further remains. We were unable to locate any based on where we were looking. We're hopeful to hopefully find further remains that may give us some clues as to ultimately the cause and manner of death as Coroner Lees would rule. Anyone with any type of information is asked to contact Cambria County Detective Bureau. You can contact them at 814-472-1680. That's 472-1680. Again, we want to get, as in any case like this, we want to get answers for his family and for his friends and for his memory. So anyone with information is asked to come forward. I will open it up for questions. Obviously, this is an ongoing investigation and will be an ongoing investigation until such time as we can get more information and some answers. But again, we do consider this to be a suspicious death. We are treating it that way, and we will investigate it accordingly.
Once you ID'd the victim, I guess, did you find out where his last whereabouts were?
So as part of the investigation, we have a timeline of his last known whereabouts. Frankly, we've had that for a while now, based on information received by us and certain investigative leads. Again, he's been missing. He was reported missing back in January of 23, and he has been missing since that time.
Is there anything from the public can do from his last whereabouts that try to help?
I mean, anyone with any type of information that they think might be helpful, even if you have a piece of information and you think it might not be helpful, let us know. Any little piece of information sometimes can open a case like this. What may seem trivial to someone else may mean a lot to us, where we have a larger picture of what's going on.
I guess, would it be like in the area where the skull was found?
Certainly. I mean, you know, how the skull ended up where it was. We've had a pretty wet April and May. It's been a little drier lately, but certainly we had a high water event, I believe the end of April. So there's some thought that perhaps the skull washed down during that high water event. We believe, based on some of the findings from the forensic anthropologist, that it would have been washed some distance perhaps. We don't know that. So certainly anything in that area, there's a reservoir not far from there. So it could have come out of that. It could have washed down the river from a mile or two above. We don't know that yet.
What do you say about this gentleman? Where is he from?
He's from Mineral Point. His address was Mineral Point. So from that perspective, whenever the skull was discovered, he was one of the people initially that we thought it could be, based on the location. He's from Mineral Point, again, 40 years of age, and had been missing for about a year and a half. A little less than a year and a half. We do not. Again, with some of the high water that we've had, and there's a thought that it would have washed down there. It was in a, Jeff, I think it's pretty fair to say, very remote location. It wasn't easy to get down to. Actually, we have to thank the fire company for providing support and ropes to be able to get down the side of the hill, down into the river. We may not know how long it was there. I think we're fortunate that a fisherman happened to be walking by and happened to have seen it. So we thank that gentleman. Yeah, the guy just trying to go out and have a nice day fishing. And I don't think his day ended as well as he was hoping. So we thank him. And it shows in cases as simple as a fisherman just looking at the bank of the river, right? I mean, that's a huge piece of information. We have some of the remains. Okay, so now that we know we're no longer dealing with a missing person. So,
Were there some indications that made it easier to eliminate? I mean, like, people read about it, they talk, oh, what if this could have been from the flood 100 years ago? Or what if this could have been from a mine or something?
sure.
Were there ways that you were able to kind of narrow that down?
Yeah, go ahead. I think that's more Jeff, yeah.
Through the forensic anthropologist and his examination, it was determined to be within 2 years, I think his quote was.
And the dental records positively identified.
How big of talk about how big of a factor it was that there were still some teeth intact here?
It's huge. Yeah, we definitely lucked out having those teeth, being able to compare them to other X-ray imaging, and again to make that positive identification relatively quick on this case. A lot of times these cases take an extended period of time. It's a methodical process that's involved, and we were fortunate.
Alternatives, if we didn't have dental records or if there were no teeth or we couldn't get a match, we would have been looking at family comparison of DNA, and that process, we're talking weeks, months for that to be done. Whereas the dental records, the dental records were a couple of weeks, really, which is really amazing. We were very fortunate.
Just with dirt map being able to say, oh, this is the last couple of years, did that allow you to kind of narrow this down from potentially anybody to maybe just a small number of people right off the bat?
So the coroner's office, based on their observations there at the scene, believed that it was within a couple of years, is what the coroner's office had indicated to us, and they were proven right. When you're looking at really, frankly, any body part showing up somewhere you don't expect it to, you immediately sort of go to missing persons, people that have been reported missing. Based on the level of decomp on that, it was evident it wasn't something within the last few days or weeks or maybe even a couple of months, even to an untrained eye. So we sort of narrowed it down to missing persons from that general geographical area, of which he was one, and that theory proved to be correct.
This now, as you mentioned, shifts to being a suspicious death investigation. What can you say about, where you go from here? I assume, obviously, you're interested in what the findings are going to be from Mr. Dirkmatt's report.
Sure. That once we get our eyes on that report, that may help shed some light. The reality is, I mean, again, it's a suspicious death because of the manner in which he went missing, the length of time he had been missing, certainly body part being found in a body of water. All those things are naturally sort of pique your interest. It's suspicious because the cause of manner hasn't been ruled yet because we don't have enough information for coroner release to make that determination. So that's why we're asking for any information that anyone might have, if they've seen anything suspicious. Law enforcement has been very active in this case prior to the finding of the remains, and certainly, obviously, we have at least one piece of the puzzle. It's frankly not a very big piece, but we're going to keep looking into this and figuring out what we can. Something that Coroner Lees and I actually talked about a lot is about, part of our jobs are to speak for the decedent, right? Jeff's job is to determine what happened to the decedent and speak for them in that manner. And then obviously law enforcement's job is to try to get justice if there was foul play. So things that Coroner Lees does at a scene and things law enforcement does at the scene really coincide. And we have a great working relationship between the two offices, and it's really valuable, truly. And we both want to be able to give these answers at the end of the day, and I hope and pray we'll get there.
Did the victim, live near the water stream where he was?
Yeah, this is not far from Mineral Point. It might actually, where it was located, might actually be a Mineral Point address nearby. It's Conemaugh Township is the municipality. There was a thought initially that we might be in East Taylor where it was found. Things you don't think about with GPS that helped determine where the primary jurisdiction was, which was Conemaugh Township, initially thought to be East Taylor.
Since you're both here, since we're all here, anything more that can be said at this point on our investigation from overnight?
So I believe identification of the victim is being withheld at this point.
Yes,
Pending notification.
pending notification of family, and an autopsy is underway.
A second individual, a second adult that was shot, critical injuries. We haven't had an update from the hospital at this point, but critical injury.
There was mentioned that there were people driving these individuals to get them help, which would sort of indicate there were some people with them. Can you talk about that? Are you getting some support from the public or the parties?
So I'm not going to comment specifically on that. Obviously, this is early stages of investigation. If anyone has any information, as always, please contact. JPD is the primary investigative entity. JPD responded to the coroner's office, was there, district attorney's office, and county detective bureau were all on scene. We are receiving some assistance from a K-9 unit of Pennsylvania State Police and the Attorney General's office also has provided assistance already.
Can you even generally speak a little bit about why those two entities are involved in this particular incident?
So PSP from a K-9 capability perspective specifically, the AG's office, I'm not going to comment on that, aside from the fact that the AG's office provides a lot of assistance to us in general. Obviously the Drug Task Force and the AG's office. So we, at the end of the day, a large part of what we do, and this is for Jeff's office as much as my office and law enforcement in general, a lot of it is having good relationships with one another, knowing who to call and who to ask for help. Just like any other thing, there's certain law enforcement agents that are more tech savvy. Obviously, we have canine handlers. I have a dog at home, but I don't know how to handle, certainly, a highly trained canine. Police officers are no different. And just like anything else, a lot of times, a different set of eyes and a different perspective can really shed some light. So it's, in any complex investigation, I can't think of a single complex investigation since I have been a prosecutor that multiple agencies from different branches have been involved. Some of its resources, some of its expertise. And at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. We want to get people answers, and we want to get justice for victims.
Right, you're able to describe the scene, at least out there.
Sure. Multiple shell casings on Plum Street. Yeah, there was multiple shell casings on the street. A vehicle that had suffered some damage from a apparent firearm fire. Some damage to a house that apparently suffered some firearm damage. The Maple Avenue was, the victims were being transported to the hospital by a private citizen, and they encountered the fire company that was responding to shots fired, and they all sort of staged there to provide immediate assistance to the victims. Again, one was pronounced dead on Maple Avenue, and the other two victims were taken to the hospital.
Were any weapons recovered?
Yes,
Firearms recovered?
firearms.
Person of interest at this point?
We have a couple of people we'd like to talk to.
I assume, yeah, you're still looking for any of the public assistance as well too with this?
Absolutely. Public assistance in any case is always requested. In a case like this, early morning hours, shortly after midnight, I believe, is when the call came in. A lot of people are in bed, a lot of people aren't in bed. So if anyone heard anything, saw anything in that area, please give us a call, and we'll come talk to you.
Sometimes it doesn't matter how small. It's just something unusual that they have encountered or something that you'd be interested in.
To be honest with you, a lot of times it's what appears small to someone ends up being enough to break something open. Truly. At the end of the day, and I think in every one of these conferences, I'm inevitably asked some questions where I say I'm not going to go into detail, or I'm not going to go too much into that. And that is to protect the integrity of the investigation, so that there's a lot of times someone will call in with a tidbit that we may already know, but they have a little more about it. And that lends credibility to what that person is telling us. And that gives us the ability then to get further search warrants, to do other investigative techniques as may be appropriate. So what may seem small or trivial to someone may absolutely not be small or trivial to us. That's, at the end of the day, the big picture. Very few people know the whole picture right now of what we know. And so if anyone has anything, even if you think it's small, please give us a call. Again, JPD, give them a call. They'll get in touch with you. And if you're nervous or scared, we have ways that we can help protect you, and we will do anything and everything that we can to do that.
I guess this case it's a little bit harder since it seemed to spread out a little bit.
Yeah, so this is a little unique in terms of where we have ultimately the vehicle with multiple victims in it come to rest away from the scene. We've had that a number of times, though, when you think about it. We've had cases someone gets shot and they're even a year or two ago, they're trying to drive themselves to the hospital and they end up wrecking, and it comes in as called as a vehicle accident, and we get there and we find out that it's not a vehicle accident. So from this perspective, we knew it was a shots fired, and very quickly when the fire department made contact, it was evident that it was as a result of that. So again, the secondary scene, I'll call it, on Maple Avenue, really was a vehicle, okay? And that was processed, secured, and removed from the area, and it's in a secure facility, and it'll be further processed, if not today, tomorrow. And the other scene is really a house. It's in front of a residence.
Rick, for clarity, because you mentioned earlier about the scene involving a vehicle that sustained some gunfire, are we talking about two different vehicles, or are we talking about a vehicle that was down Maple Avenue that sustained?
The vehicle was recovered on Maple Avenue, but it's believed to have been at the prior scene. Yeah. And I recognize I wasn't clear in that. Yeah. Anything else?
Were all the victims shot in the vehicle?
No.
The third victim, are both people who were injured and survived at this point, have they both been treated, or are we looking for somebody?
We believe anyone that was hit with gunfire is identified and has either received treatment or has passed. And hospitals are required to report if someone shows up with a gunshot wound or serious wounds, and we haven't received any other reports.
The other person was more minor?
Correct. Not believed to be life-threatening. Thankfully. Thank you, everyone.
I bumped the table, but I guess it's okay now.
Nice job.
I know it's hard to